Okay, welcome back again. I think we're all here and we're good to go. I'm Chantel from Always Be Reading, your host. And if you're joining me for now, I think the second time tonight, because I don't think that my first introduction actually went through. But I want to welcome you guys to this space where we honor books and authors and the power of story. And tonight, I'm going to be joined by Alexandra Villasante, and she is the winner of the 2020 Lambda Literary Award for LGBTQ children's and young adult literature for her debut novel, The Grief Keeper, which was also a Junior Library Guild Gold selection. She also writes short fiction, and it has appeared in several acclaimed YA anthologies, including All Signs Point to Yes, Our Shadows Have Claws, Relit, 16 Latinx remixes of classical stories. She is also a passionate community builder, which I love. She's the co-founder of the Latinx Kidlit Book Festival and the Latinx Storytellers Conference, both dedicated to celebrating and supporting Latinx voices in literature. And finally, we get to talk about her latest book, Fire Blooms. Alex, welcome to the show. Welcome,
Chantel,
welcome,
thank
welcome.
you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to talk all the things.
All the things. So I just want to jump into it because I am brimming with things to talk about. Brimming with things to talk about. The first word that came to my mind when I finished it, well, there were a lot of things. I had emotions. I had emotions.
Good. I
I had
meant that.
emotions. I had emotions. And the word that came to mind was complex.
Hmm.
This is a very like complex and layered read, and my emotions, I was left, they were complex. It was like had a little bit of a lot of things like floating around when I got to the end of it. And I'm interested in knowing if you had it, like what was the spark that was like, ah, I have something. Like what was that moment for you when it came to this book?
Well, I love that you said complex because I write exclusively for children. Maybe one day I'll write for adults if I feel like it. But for right now, I write for kids, for teens, and sometimes people have this idea that that's somehow less complex, easier, just not as interesting. And I really refute that because I don't know anybody who's more complex than teens, who have more going on than teens, who are struggling and working and understanding more about themselves and the world than teens. So
Mhm.
I love that it came across that way because I think that's what teens deserve. As far as the origins for this book, it actually came from this part of like a comedy bit that Chris Rock did years and years ago. I keep notes of things that I find interesting all the time. I think most writers do, and it
Yeah.
was this bit about where he was saying, "I know how to solve gun violence. Just make the bullets really expensive. Just make every bullet
Mm.
$5,000, $10,000, and then we'll see what happens." And it's
Mhm.
he's being controversial. He's being like thought provoking. He's being funny, but it got me thinking of like, yes, it's a ridiculous proposal, but what if? What if the things that ailed us, the things that caused trouble, what if we did try to control them? What would that mean? And I immediately thought of hate speech and bullying. So
Right.
if we tried to control what words people could use, if they had to pay for the words, if they had to pay for words that were hateful or that were curses or just any words, like how would that impact people? And what would happen? And I love a what if. Like a what if is my jam. That's what I really like about speculative fiction,
Yeah.
because it really puts different kinds of people, kind of puts people under stress, fictional people
Yes. Yes.
under
Yes.
stress, like let's see what this kind of person would react. So that was
Yeah.
the origin of the idea of this
I
book.
am so glad that I asked that question. I never would have come close to even guessing the answer to that question. Thank you, Chris Rock. I'm
Yeah,
a
thank
fan of
you.
his. And yeah, I love the way in which, in the beginning, the limitation of words or rules around words were hinted at. And you kind of, it wasn't just stated like plainly at the beginning. And I really liked that. And when you get to this point where you're like, oh, there's actually a rationing around words, and when you understand why it is, in essence of trying to create safety, I think what that did for me as I first read it, because I'm a word lover, I was like, oh, absolutely not. And then as I kept reading, I started, well, like, huh, that makes sense. I could see that. I think you've created these two characters, and I really liked your choice. And I was wondering, this is another question. I have so many questions, that you kept the story with the two, like hearing from the two characters, these two very different points of view. And it wasn't like multiple characters. I really liked the cadence of it and this back and forth between them. And because it also allowed me as a reader to go back and forth with myself. I found myself going back and forth with myself about, how do I feel about this? Oh, I thought I felt sure this way about this topic. But, I read, like the next chapter, and my thoughts change a little bit. And that's why it was really complex to me. And I appreciate what you said about writing for children, writing for teens, and I think it's so challenging to do so, because I do think that some of the stuff that adults, or that we think that children want, needs to be simple and easy, and their worlds aren't. If you have teens, right? I think we have
I
kids
do.
around the
Yeah,
same age.
I have
They
teens.
are not. They
Not
are.
at all.
They
you
are
will never
not.
be more complex than you are when you're 16,
Than you
17
are when you're
years old.
16. And so I found that you have such a, I'm a children's ministry director. So I have like, oh my gosh, how little are my babies? So like 3 to like 5th grade. And I actually was telling them about this story because, we share about our lives. So I was like, well, I'm so excited. On Monday, I'm having this conversation. And I started telling them the story, and they were like, wait, that sounds good. And then Alex, they were like, and two of them that were with me on Sunday, one was actually in high school, and he was very like intrigued. And he was like, this should be made into a movie. Tell her this should be made into a movie.
I'll get on that.
And yes, get on that. And so when you're around young people, I think young people know, like, if you're authentic or not. If you, there's a different way to speak about them, and it's a different way to speak to them. And they are harsh critics. I find children to be harsh critics. And
their BS monitor is finely attuned.
Finely attuned. Like finely attuned. And I felt like I was reading passages to some teens that I know. And it was just like, you nailed the language and the inner monologue, I think, of what they think like, and how they're thinking and how they're feeling so well. And so I'm just curious, like, how did you do that? Is it just because you're a parent with teens and you have like that? Like, how do you, it's like you are inside the mind of teenagers.
So in like the kidlit world, I have a lot of friends who write for kids of all ages, picture book all the way up to teen. And we kind of have this idea that the internal age that you are is sort of the age that you write for, which isn't always true, because I've got loads of friends that write picture book all the way up. But I do think that you have this age where you identify yourself. And for me, it's 16 years old. And it's not that I raise kids and pay taxes. I'm good. Like, I'm an actual adult. But I do really value that time in a person's life when they are trying to become themselves, trying to see who they are, what's important to them, what matters, what makes them angry. I mean, you know this because of dealing with kids, that there is no person with a finer sense of justice than a kid. A kid
Yeah.
just has this really innate sense of what is what it means to be equitable, what real justice is. And I feel like I have so much respect for kids. One, I do understand that they are extremely complex. I have a fondness for that. I kind of never got past 16 myself. But in addition to that, I also read tons of YA books.
Yeah.
Like, I love them. I think for that same reason, that they're like fascinating. They're the not that all books, like we were talking a little bit about this before we started, your mileage may vary, right? Some books, YA books, are like great summer beach reads, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the books that I love are the ones that are really dip into how complex kids are and how hard it is to be a kid right now. Like, it's really difficult. Whether it's emotional, family, first love, school expectations, becoming an adult, like, it is a lot. So I think all those things together, thank you for saying that it sounds authentic, because I'm glad that it does. But I live in this world, and I think it's respect, doing your research, read your books. And it helps that my kids are helping me with all of the slang. Oh my gosh, the slang.
Oh, I was really impressed. I was like, yes, I was really impressed. Again, it was so authentic. And one of the things you said, that it's really hard being a kid, it's a hard being a young person today. And I do believe it is harder. I'm sure it's harder for our children than it was when we were their age.
I agree.
And I really, really believe that. And one of the things, when I was talking to my group of kids on Sunday, and I set up this scenario, and I asked them a what if, because they love the what if, right? And I said, what if you could live in a place where you had like awesome technology, it was super fast, you got to, have free food, like you got to do all of these things with your technology, but you had a limitation on words. Like, there were certain words you couldn't say, and you had a limitation on how many words you could say. Or, would you choose that, or would you choose the opposite? Like, I can have as many words as I want, just like we are right now, and you not have all those things. And it was fascinating, the choice that all of them said quickly. And they said that they would choose the limitation on words. And because I said in this other one,
really,
I was fascinated by that. And it made me think about, on page 67 in Lou's chapter, they say, no one has phones, so I guess that means no one is pointing evil crap on Snap or stories, but what's stopping them from saying the same crap to my face? I don't think that's Lou. That must be, no, it wasn't. Yeah, that was something that he was saying. They were saying. And so when I read this part, I read it as an adult, that when I know about bullying when I was younger. I experienced some of it, but not in the way that kids experience it today, especially with the online. And it wasn't until the kids that I know and love and have relationship with, and it wasn't until they picked, oh, I would rather have this if this is safe, than I would limit my words. That I thought back about this, and I was like, oh my goodness, the severity. I can't relate to the severity maybe of what they are going through, and to the quiet anxiety that at any moment, right? Because these things are with us and around us all the time. I think there was one scene where there was in the bathroom too.
That's right.
The friends in the bathroom, where the bathroom is the private place, the safe place, right? Like, the bathroom was like the place where I went for like,
decompress. Yes.
Decompress. and for bathrooms not to potentially be that place for young people.
Mhm.
Um, and it really just made me, what it did is I said, oh, this is such an important topic and conversational. I think that's one of the things that makes it so powerful, what you wrote about and writing about, the impact of technology, but how you wrote about it from a negative perspective, but also a positive, and then
Mhm.
questioning that. We get to sit and question that. And I thought it was so clever in how you did that.
I
Um,
actually haven't had a chance, Chantel, yet to talk to kids. The book came out about a month ago. I've been doing book events, but mostly it's been with like other adults or like,
yeah,
like young adults, but not really teens. I haven't done any school visits yet. I will.
yeah.
And I haven't asked that question. So it's fascinating to me
Oh,
that to you that they
yes,
responded that way. But in thinking about it, I wonder if it's partially because in a way that is more natural to them than it ever will be to us, they're used to being surveilled. They're more used to it. Like, like
yeah,
my kid, I hate this. My kid, if they go on to Snap, they can find where everybody else is and other people can
hmm,
find them. And I hate this. And I'm constantly trying to get them to turn it off.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's a reality to them that they already kind of understand. I think the part in Fire Blooms where it becomes even more of a problem is not everyone has the same freedoms. Not everyone has the same, because you're being charged for your words. So
yes,
even though there are all these free things in this town in New Galt, not everyone has the same wealth. Not everyone
right,
has the same ability to afford these words. So for some people, not everyone has, several of the teens in my book speak other languages. And right
yes,
now, the
yes,
technology does not count words in another language. But for the kid, I'm thinking of Diego, who's one
yes,
of the in the friend group. He does not speak Spanish. He is Latinx, but he doesn't speak Spanish, so he doesn't get the benefits. So already there is this inequality between the people. So I think that for some kids, I do even, we'll see what happens when I do the school visits. I'm fascinated. I can't wait. But
yes,
some people might be like, wait a minute, who's paying for all this? Who's doing this? Who can
right,
afford this? Who can't?
right. And I love that you bring up Diego, because Diego was a character that really interested me. He caught my eye. Um,
Mhm.
because so Diego is part of the friend group. I think I would say that I think that he's the one that like you see the least of in the friend group.
Mhm.
Um, but he was really, and I think maybe because I've known some
Me
Diegos,
too. I
and
know and love Diego's.
I know and love, and what I liked about how you dealt with I've not read a person like Diego who has anger management issues written in such a human way.
Thank
And
you.
I think that's what caught my eye. It wasn't written in this stereotypical fly off the handle um way that a lot of characters who are just that person that goes off or that's angry or that's violent or
Mhm.
abusive or that person. It was so human. And I think it allowed for me to care about Diego
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to be for Diego. There was a foreignness that
Mhm.
even after finding out some stuff, which y'all will have to read the book to
He
find
doesn't
out the
he doesn't
stuff.
do all the right things. Let's just say that. He doesn't do all the right
He
things.
doesn't do all the right things, but that I loved how you just handled that situation and how the friend group responded as well, which
Mhm.
was so, I think in kids reading this, they too have their Diegos. They know them. And
They are
I
them. They
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 are
are
them.
them.
They
This
are
book
them.
is
They
for
are them.
Diego too.
It's for Diego too. You're right. And for the people who have Diegos that they're trying to deal with, I was like, what a great example of how you can actually respond and deal with and walk out friendship with someone like that. And for Diego, for the person who is, I am Diego, what a great way to see, like, to see yourself not be alienated, which is usually what happens
Right.
to those people in our life that are like that. And what was your inspiration for Diego?
I mean, I know, I can honestly say that all these kids, I know these kids. They're people that
Mm-hmm.
or people, not just kids. Like
Yeah.
I've experienced those kids, and I really am. And maybe this, like, there are books that very much are clearly like, here are the good guys, here are the bad
Yeah.
guys, here are the, or if this guy is a bad guy, it's because he's got very serious reasons. That's
Mm-hmm.
all fine, no shade. But for me, I'm writing about very realistic kids, and
Yeah.
kids are like, they make mistakes, sometimes big ones. Sometimes they make choices that are really hard to forgive.
Yeah.
And in this book, I mean, we could talk about that later, but not
Yeah.
only kids, adults make choices that
Yes,
they
they do.
are really
Yes,
hard
they
to
do.
forgive. But all of these people continue to be human, and I want there to be at least a chance for redemption. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, because you don't
Yeah.
automatically get a redemption. You have to earn it,
Yeah.
but it's possible. So I want to leave that door open for all kinds of kids. There's a book by a nonfiction young adult book called Accountable by Dashka
Mm.
Slater, which
Mm-hmm.
I read. It wasn't exactly research, but it definitely the way that it's Dashka is an author, but also a journalist, and writes this nonfiction account of a bullying incident that happened in Northern California a few years, maybe I want to say maybe like 7 or 8 years ago now. But the thing is that the way that Dashka treats all of the real people in this real event is with such empathy. That doesn't mean anybody
Mm.
gets off the hook. That doesn't mean
Right.
they don't
Right.
talk about
Right.
what they did, the very terrible things that they did, but they're
Right.
still treated as human. And while I was drafting my book, I wanted to make sure that I was doing as much due diligence with my fictional characters, that I continue to treat them as human beings who would be, if they were to earn it, they could have a redemption, and they could have that sort of like a coming back into the fold.
Yeah.
Does everybody do it? No, but it's
Mm-hmm.
possible. No one
But
is
it's possible.
irredeemable.
And that's such a great message when everything seems, especially when I think about teens and myself then, that kind of looking back, but also just my girls and other teens I know, everything is like so big. Everything is like so big, so end of the world, like can't come back from it, can't. And so I think like being able to read a book where you're on a journey with people that are able to come back, that are able to hold space,
Mm-hmm.
and to see what that looks like is really important for themselves and for each other and for others in the book
Yep.
as well. And I love how it's not just peer to peer where they have to struggle with that, but it's also in adult relationships as well. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about these mothers. So we have two mothers in the
Mm-hmm.
book. I must say, Sebas's mother was, she
Hard.
she was hard.
Mm-hmm.
She was hard. And I will say I ended not knowing how I felt about her. I'm like, I still have some, like, can I trust it? Like I ended with I don't know. She was hard.
Mm-hmm.
She was really hard. And I every time that he went into that house, I just I hated that he had to go into that house and be subjected to.
I mean, every time I had to write him into the house, I tensed
I
up.
just didn't want him to go into that
No.
house. Like again, like
Yeah.
um yeah. And so who that she was a hard character. And what I there was this, I didn't understand where the hardness came from, in the sense of like, um, I mean, and I like that. She's like a little ball of, what do you call it? Like a tangle ball, because when we meet her, she has cancer,
Mhm,
and that's hard, right? So,
mhm,
okay, that's hard, you know, and you're living kind of isolated,
mhm,
that's
mhm.
hard. And then I think what was woven in there was this racial aspect.
Yeah,
Um, and that Sebas was stuck in the middle, you know,
yeah, yeah.
or just, and there were lots of those things that were, as far as like race, identity, lots of things about identity that I think you cleverly weaved in, and you didn't provide full answers to, but you allowed for glimpses. It was just very natural in that way. So for the mother who is white,
Mhm.
um, and and then Sebas's father is non-white, it's Latin, right?
Mexican American, yep.
And there seemed to be tension between that.
Mhm.
At least as far as, Sebas's experience of acceptance, maybe from
Right,
his mother.
right.
Again, with the words that she used, there's this one part towards the end where, when the father, comes and she sees him, and he's like, "Oh, that's the first time I haven't heard her say a whole bunch of stuff
Something, yeah,
in front of
yeah,
his name."
yeah,
And and then you have, opposite of his mom, you have Abuela,
yeah.
who I love.
Who I love Abuela. So, to a full disclosure, Abuela was modeled on my own mother. My mother
Okay,
passed away a couple of years ago, and I
I
was
remember.
writing this book um,
Mm.
while she was still alive, and a lot
Mm.
of the delightful, like, uh,
Ugh,
pillerias, the little like mischievousness that
yes,
Sebas's abuela does, and in her mischievousness and her not only kindness, but like they're co-conspirators. They're far
yes,
away. They're
yes,
calling each other, zooming each other,
yes.
but they're co-conspirators, so he doesn't feel alone. So she
Mhm.
really is his anchor while he's in this hostile environment. And I very much like felt like that was like my mother's spirit in
Yes,
that role. But and then I will say, for to bring up one other mother, Lou's mother.
yes.
I had somebody over the weekend. I was at the Yo Book Festival in Pennsylvania, and I had another author who is a non-binary author come up to me who had read my book, and they were
Mhm.
like, "It was amazing to see a family be so supportive of a trans non-binary person.
Yes,
That is what I wish I had." It was
yes,
like from beginning to end, complete acceptance. And that's true.
yes,
That's what Lou has. Lou has that complete acceptance. I wanted that to be there, because to say, sometimes that is what people get, and that is what people deserve, and what people
right.
should have. So the fact that they thanked me for that portrayal, but then at the same time someone else would come up and say, "I can't handle Sebas's mother," and I'm like, I know. I know. I know.
And
It's like
yeah,
you have to.
like, it's, yeah, because y'all, she's hard. She's hard. You just are like, "Get out. Get away." Like,
She's
you don't want
she
that.
she is a bitter woman, and she is a racist.
Yes,
And that is true. And that is, she was raised by racists.
yes.
She has tried to outrun her upbringing, and with the beginning of the book, she has not succeeded.
Not succeeded, you guys. Not succeeded. And you see up close the damage that does. Like, I think that's why it was so, literally, tense is the word, because you just see what he's walking into,
Mm.
you know. And I do want to touch upon the comment that person made about Lou's family, because I enjoyed reading where, especially within the family, where there wasn't conflict about their identity.
Mhm.
There was just, it wasn't that part of the story was problematic. So
Right.
other parts of life we can focus on, right? I
Yeah, like
oftentimes
lose
find,
little sister. Lose little
yes,
sister is a problem, but that's a
yes,
normal problem. Anybody
yes,
might have that
that's a
problem.
normal little sister problem,
Yeah,
that's a normal little sister problem.
right.
And but their identity, it was not the problem in that way. It wasn't centered as the problem,
Right.
and that was very refreshing.
It was
Very
really
refreshing.
important to me to make that, not that coming out stories are difficult stories
Right.
for queer teens don't have a place. Of course they do, but at some point, in the same way that I've written stories about Latinx immigration, but I don't want every story that I write to be about that, because that's not the totality of our experience or our identity. Same thing for a trans non-binary kid. Yes, they may have a difficult family, but I know kids that don't and who are
Right.
completely supported. And I also want to create a family and a teen and see where they would go if they did have all that support. Like
That's
what
right.
are when you're not when your house isn't on fire, right? What are some other of the things that you are trying to solve?
Right. What's possible. It's so important. And I think, especially when it comes to literature for young people, to be able to see themselves represented in different ways. I remember when my girls were very young, I went to find stories, to read to them. And I was so frustrated because most of the stories, which is still true, are about the struggles and the hardship. It's
Mhm,
about, the survival,
mhm.
the resilience. And yes, those are part of our history and those are important stories. But I'm like, okay, but where is the little Black girl that's just chasing a rainbow? You
Where's just the
know,
joy?
where's just the joy, where that part of their of identity isn't centered in a negative way of having to overcome something.
Mhm,
And so I think maybe that's why I'm more sensitive to that, because I
mhm.
understand in my way like what that
For sure.
feels like when that's just the okay, here we go again with the same type of
Right.
story. And that does its own type of damage, as well, because if for
Absolutely.
people who are like, that's not my that's I don't relate to that, because I do have a joyful home. I am supported, I do that. They don't see themselves. And for the others who do find themselves in challenging or non-acceptance spaces, they don't see hope, or
Right.
they don't see a glimpse of like what could be normal.
Right, and
Um,
what about other people? I mean, we're writing for our communities, but we're
yes,
writing for everybody. So we're
yeah,
also writing to build empathy. So if we're
yes,
talking about, these negative representations, again, I'm not saying to make anything untrue. We want to be authentic, but
yeah,
also show the entire breadth of our experience, which is so wide, so different,
yeah,
and it is getting better. That
yeah.
representation is getting better, but we have to keep pushing for it.
We have to keep pushing for it. We have to keep pushing for it. One of the things that, again, with when I said this novel is complex, is because it's so layered. You have, it is queer, it is Latin, it is speculative, right? It's
Mhm.
like all of these different ways you can describe this story. It's like a nice stew pot, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That comes together very well. And one of the things within that, especially that I loved reading about, that gave me more insight in the Latin space, is that like it is not a monolith. Like I know,
Mhm.
like like it's not a monolith, like from an of course it wouldn't be. But I loved how, again, it was subtle as far as the differences, as far as, like you said, those growing up and, being able to have language or having the language and speaking Spanish versus like the character. Cause I had to go back with Diego and I'm like, wait a minute, Diego. Oh, you are, but you don't have the language.
That's right.
And then like, why don't you have the language? Why weren't you, raised with that? And this different cultures and how, I think it was interesting how the children noticed and had those differences, the cultural differences, and how they were trying to, in my mind, I would almost like help fill each other's holes, but without being
Mhm.
pushy. Like Diego had that interest to learn it, so there was help for that, but it wasn't like forced forced, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
like there was acceptance, but you did see like a difference kind of within this group of kids that I
Yeah,
appreciated to
and I wanted to also talk about just within Latinidad. If you're talking about a kid like Diego who has a larger family, they're
yeah,
Dominican American. In their family, they're working class. So what that means for them, and it is a very specific example, is that his parents have decided, no, we're going to assimilate. We're in this country now.
yeah,
We are
yeah,
not teaching our kids Spanish. That is just, and you can understand. Look at our
that's
current
right.
day
That's
environment
right.
where that decision would come from.
That's
And we're going
right.
to say, no, you're going to speak English and that's it. We're not going to rely on the old ways. Whereas
Hmm.
with Lou's parents, Lou's dad is Irish American.
Yes.
So he does not speak, he speaks Spanish, but really badly.
Hmm.
But because Lou was homeschooled, their mom had an opportunity to teach them Spanish.
Yeah.
So they had an advantage that Diego doesn't have.
Didn't
So there's
have.
lots of reasons why. And Sebas learned Spanish through his dad and his
Yeah.
abuela, and he was in
Yeah.
the community. So
Yeah.
you're talking about three different Latinx identities with
Hmm.
very different
Very different.
access to
Yeah.
language and all sorts of culture.
Hmm. Widely different. Widely different.
Mhm.
I like, and how you weaved all of that together was just really brilliant.
Oh,
Really
thank you.
brilliant. Yeah, I really, and I'm like, huh. Also, shout out to the homeschoolers. Thanks for
Yep,
getting a little shout out. I was like,
absolutely.
oh, like,
I
yes.
love a
And I
homeschooler.
also love that that wasn't weird. Like, also, in the book, it just was like she's homeschooled, and
Yeah,
that's that.
yeah.
Like they were homeschooled. Oh my goodness. So I want to like the book asks. I think one of the essential questions that like I know I was left with is like, what are we willing to give up to feel safe?
Mhm.
And what do you hope young readers will grapple with, or how do you hope, I guess I would say, young readers will grapple with that question of what are you what are you willing to give up to be safe?
Mhm.
And I like the fact that safety, there was different types of safety. There was safety in like the world in which Lou felt I feel safe in New Galt because there are these rules, because things are monitored,
Mhm.
and they exist. At least they believe they exist, because I'm over here like, what's the corporation's like purpose, right?
Right. What's their agenda?
What's
Correct.
their
Yes.
agenda? But Lou believes this exists to help keep us safe.
Mhm.
And because they experienced a tragic, life-changing, lived through, experience, safety, it's not just like a concept for
Mhm.
Lou. It's a
Absolutely.
real,
It's
it was
real.
really threatened. It was
Yes.
real. And in ways that it wasn't for Sebas, I think. Like
That's right.
couldn't re-
That's true.
can't relate on that level.
Right.
Um and so the phone, even having it, like, and I so appreciate it, like I need to have it like physically with me.
Mhm.
I have a niece who has to have her phone physically like with her, and being able to appreciate without before with I think we judge a lot of stuff without taking a moment
Mhm.
to really kind of appreciate or think about the why behind it.
Yeah.
And that as an adult reading this, your work, which I think is so important, I would encourage adults to read this, because it gives you a different type of insight as to what is happening with young people around you, maybe those in your home or those in your community. Like, I think it just provides that, and it's so important. And it helps, I mean, I think it helped me to slow down and not be as quick, not be as judgmental, and to actually help me to be more empathetic and also more curious.
I think
And
actually it's a really good point, Chantel, because your question about what do I want kids to sort of be left with as far as like what you would do to be safe, right?
yeah,
So first of all, I think that all kids should be safe.
yeah,
I know that's not the world we live in. I know it's
yeah,
not,
yeah,
but they deserve to be safe. So let's start with that as a baseline, right? But there are levels of safety. There are different things that can make people feel safe, whether it's your family, it can be somebody else, it can be a place, it can be your phone. Um, what I would love for kids and adults who read Fire Blooms to come away with is just to be thoughtful about it, because I
yeah,
think part of what happens to us, because technology is so fast, it's changing like minute to minute. And our relationship to it changes, and how we interact and what we get out of it, what we use it for. I think it's a bit of a slippery slope of uh, the freedoms that we've given up to get this
mhm,
convenience of some kind. So
mhm,
um, everybody gives something up to be safe, right?
yeah,
I have a car insurance. I have to pay for it. It makes sure that I'm safe and that other people are
yeah,
safe if I get into a fender bender, right? That is
mhm,
a social
mhm,
construct. We do that on purpose. And I think that is a fair price to pay. So I'm not saying you shouldn't pay anything, and I'm not saying it's a free for all that anyone should be able to do whatever they
right,
want. I just think that you should be thinking about it. And then
mhm,
maybe don't, for some, like what safety is different for Sebas and for Lou. For Sebas, I think his idea of reconciling with his mom and what that would mean, and that
yeah,
he would be able to finally get after being abandoned by her, what he wants isn't what he wants, isn't
right,
really what he thought it was. That idea of being safe with his mother and this idea of what she would be like isn't really there. And that's something he has to come to terms with. And then for Lou, safety becomes at the end no longer the most important thing.
yes,
Evolving
yes,
becomes
yes,
more important.
yes,
Changing becomes more important. And I think both of them, Lou and Sebas, really challenge each other to look at things differently, which is why, as you mentioned, like that
yes,
alternating point of view, you see
yeah,
it both ways, and then they start to see each other's
each
point
other,
of view too.
mhm,
So
yeah,
that's it. Just
yeah.
think.
Just think, and I think that it allows, because the reader is sitting kind of like, I kind of, you're in the middle of two conversations coming at you, like, oh, I see you. Oh, okay. Oh, and what you get, I do think that you are able to be, I don't know, like, it is like much more thoughtful. Like, this is a book like, oh, okay, let me slow down. Let me not be so quick, with the things that
Let
I
me be
might
thoughtful.
assign. Let me be thoughtful, which is a really good gift. And it's very hard to do, especially I think in the fast pacedness
Mm.
and in the ways I think as adults of how especially teenagers are described, and how, that 16-year-old you is not, that is not like, people don't, they're like teenagers. Ah, oh, you have teenagers. It's like,
Yeah.
I think, and I think this just gives um a very like, good is not the word that I'm looking for. But I think it gives a realistic, that's what I'm saying, a very realistic portrait of young people maneuvering their worlds right now. And there's so much that um, they can learn from reading this book, but there's also a ton that an adult can learn reading this book. And I think that
And
that is
talking to kids
like,
like you
and
were doing
talking
with
to
your
kids
kids,
about
like,
it. Yeah. And talking
yeah,
to kids about it. Like, have you, just the situations they're in, the things that they're thinking about, the language, I think, of young people is different. When I was a teenager, the word anxiety, I did not, that wasn't part of the vocabulary. you
It wasn't
know?
something I was allowed to have. I'm
Right.
sure I had it. I'm sure
Right.
I had it, but nobody was
Right.
going to say you have anxiety. They'd be like,
Exactly.
calm down,
What?
you're fine.
Yes, exactly. And so the landscape, when I was thinking just about the words and
Mhm.
the words that are just so normal, that were not normal, for us. And also the gratitude that I have for those words. I am grateful that they have that word, like, and that
Mhm.
it's acknowledged, because it wasn't really,
Right.
we didn't know that we were like, oh, was that what that was? I didn't know about anxiety until I was an adult and I had an anxiety attack, you
Yeah.
know? And then
And
that's when I was
I'm sure
first
you had
introduced to that
anxiety.
word. And
I'm
I
sure you
had
had anxiety,
anxiety.
but
I
you didn't.
did,
Yes,
but I
exactly.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I want to shift gears very quickly, before we wrap up, because I'm so interested in your thoughts, about the publishing, especially in YA, in this fields that you are in, and the current times that we find ourselves in, with books being banned, and um, stories like your story. It is a banned story. I would say it would be on the ban list, probably, right?
It
And
it very well
how
could be. I mean,
it very well
the
could
grief
be.
my first book, The Grief Keeper, has been banned in many states. I Fire Blooms, I don't want it to be banned. Here's the thing
Right.
about banning books that are banned. Um, Sometimes people say, "Wow, your book's been banned. That means like it's getting more sales, or that's
Yeah,
like a badge of honor." It is not, because what it means is that kids who rely on getting books that have represent them, that rely on getting those books in their libraries or their school libraries, are not getting access to them. So
that's
that
right.
means that it's a matter of privilege. So if you don't have the access to go into a bookstore and spend your money on a book that really represents you, then you will be cut off from access. And that is, to me, that is a crime. First
Yes,
of all, it's another form of like of not being an equitable society. Like, there's a long list, but also it's about some people will have access to their, is in a lot of cases life-saving representation. If you are a black and brown queer kid, you have anxiety and you don't have the resources to talk about it, you don't your family cannot or will not help you, where are you going to get information that could possibly save your life?
that's
And if you
right.
don't have access to these books, so that was me getting on a high horse about banned books,
No,
but
so
that's
true.
really how, like, that's how I feel. Like, the fact that we are banning books is a crime. It
Yes,
is a crime.
yes.
So I
Well
feel
said,
like
Alex.
parents have a right to tell their kids what they can and cannot read. No other parent has any right to tell my kids what they can or cannot read. It
That's right.
couldn't be simpler.
That's right. That's right. And I loved how you, because there is such a, I think of, like, yeah, you're on the, like, you did something, you're on the banned book list, or these books.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the, economics and the equality of it, it's a whole different thing. And um I was reading Animal Farm, I
Mhm.
think last year, and one of the first things in the plan that's like we got to take away was culture, was the books, with
Mhm.
you know, and it's a real thing. And I don't know if people know how, especially if you were a book purchaser of a store, like you purchase your books. I don't know if people know how useful, how important our library systems are in getting books into the hands of citizens, young and old.
Mhm.
Like, it is the main way. I don't think, if I'm correct, that bookstores are the main avenue.
No,
People,
I think you're right.
it's libraries, and
Public
not
library. Yes.
it's public libraries, and that also includes our school libraries, our public
Mhm.
school libraries. And so one of the reasons why, Shakespeare is so well known and beloved today, and I'm a lover of the Bard, is because it's part of school curriculum, and
Mhm.
because of that, it's in our public institutions.
Right.
You can go to any school library and regular library, and you're going to find on those shelves, you're going to find his plays. And so, and so you're right. When you take that away, when you start censoring and you start limiting in places like libraries in our public spaces, you do a great damage of harm. You
Yeah.
do a great damage of harm, and
Yeah.
especially for, as you were saying, demographics that don't have another choice. Oh, I have a choice to pivot over here and walk into a Barnes and Noble or go to Amazon or wherever and
Mhm.
purchase my book, you know, and
Right.
it's a real
But
thing of privilege. So,
not every person does, and certainly not even less so if a kid who doesn't
yeah,
have often doesn't have like the financial freedom to do any of that. It's really tough. This month, earlier this month was a banned book week. We've been
yeah.
having a lot of talks with Authors Against Book Banning and Freedom to
Mhm.
Read. There's a lot of organizations really good work on trying get because I'll talk to like my school moms and talk about banning,
Right.
and 9 times out of 10 they are like, wait, that's happening. I'm like, I don't know what conversation you all are having, but this is
Right.
all I talk about. Where do you and
Yes.
it's in our neighboring school districts. It's happening near us, so it's not some far away place. And once I bring that
Wow.
up to them and they're aware that it is in the following, the next school
Yes.
district, they're like, oh my gosh, I need to go to a school board meeting. I'm like, yes, you do.
Yes.
Immediately, if not
Yes.
sooner. Say how this is not how you want your schools to be run.
Yeah.
You want equity. You want, if a parent makes a decision for their own child, I can't stress this enough,
Yeah.
makes a decision for their own child to say, this book is not, do not make this book available to my child. That is your right, but you
That is
cannot
your
do that
right.
for anybody else's child.
That's right. That is your right, but you cannot do it for anybody else's child. And the desire to the need to want to do that is disturbing. And I think you're right. It's criminal. It's just, it should
Yeah.
not be. It should not be. It's not helpful. Um, it is adults trying to sanitize, I think, in their way. I think you're just trying to sanitize everything, and that is just not, that doesn't make for, healthy maturing young people into, older adults, and it makes a very small world, too.
I think
A
I
very
think there are
small
a lot of
world.
different people who work to ban books for different reasons. I want to give
Mhm.
some people maybe some benefit of the doubt. They may think a book is dangerous or damaging, but I'm gonna
Mhm.
just say the thing. I think the majority of the books that are no, I know the majority of the books that are being banned are Black and brown
That's
and
right.
queer books. They're by marginalized people
That's
telling
right.
marginalized people's stories, and they may be just a book about, like, Hair Love is one of the books that
Yeah.
has been banned. That book is delightful, and it's about
Yeah.
hair
Yeah.
and a family, and there
Yeah.
is nothing objectionable about it, but it has been banned. And now you're going to
Yeah.
tell me that that is being banned because it is somehow damaging? No. So
No.
I call BS a tiny bit on when people are like, no, but think of the children. I am thinking of the children. I'm thinking of the
Right.
children that they need to see themselves, and they need to see other people, the world as it actually is. The goal of having children is to make them into good, decent, kind adults that do good in the world. You
That's
want
right.
that? Give them books.
That's right. That's right. Well said. Like, you need to go and do more speaking engagements for fan books. Like, well said. Well said. Well said. And yeah, I can't. It's one of the things that I was so happy because we had some banned books, um, like it, not to, I don't think this extent, not like it is now, but there were some banned book lists, and I was just so happy that my parents didn't ascribe to all of
Mhm.
that. Like, they weren't following the banned book list. And I think that my reading was monitored, but it wasn't censored. if that's, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No,
And
absolutely. And that
also,
again is your parents'
yeah,
right.
that's
Parents'
your
right.
parents' right. And also that's your parents' responsibility with
Sure.
anything. Like there are things that you're like, hey, that is not appropriate. Some stuff they did well, but I don't know why I was watching Purple Rain at like 8 years old.
Oh, girl. Oh,
I
girl.
don't know. I
It's a great
don't know.
movie. It's a great
It's
movie.
great.
But you shouldn't have been
But
watching it.
watching it like 8 years old. So,
That's
so
funny.
but
Yeah.
it's like I think that I had a conversation with someone who we're building a friendship, and she is on the side of banning books. She's for
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to meet, like to have a conversation with someone who was just like so for it.
Mm.
And I think that underneath what I said I'm hearing is she's just very afraid.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
it's a lot of fear of
Absolutely.
what's going to happen to this precious child and all the ideas that she has about how her child should grow and be.
Mhm.
And I think like, I told her, I said, stories to me are doorways into worlds that are other and different from me. Even
Mhm.
worlds that are very similar, if it's a African American character, it's still different, right? It's a doorway. And instead of shutting the doors, these doorways for your children, what does it look like to walk through some of them? You
Mhm.
know, read the book.
Even if it's with guidance, even if
Even
it's with
with the
parental
guidance,
guidance. I
read the
mean,
book,
yeah.
have a conversation. Like the best thing, instead of me saying, oh, you shouldn't watch that, especially, at my kid's age, I'm like, oh, what are you watching? I need to watch it too, so I can engage in conversation.
Absolutely.
You're
Yeah.
still influential. You can still influence, which is what I think the fear comes from, but do it through conversations, like your family's values or whatever that is. Like those things can still be in place, but you make your world so small when you banned books, and
One
you
of
will be
one of the most
surprised when you
yeah.
pick up and read it that you start to experience human beings,
Mhm.
and some of the labels that we put on people start to fall away,
Yeah.
you know?
One of
And
the most, banned books, and I think it's for I think 20 years, is Laurie Halse Anderson's Speak.
mm,
Contemporary novel. If you haven't read it, it is about a main character who, and this is not a spoiler, who
mhm,
is a selective mute, becomes selectively mute after sexual assault. And it is everything that happens before and while she's trying to um, navigate this. She's in high school, and it's on the banned book list again and again because I think there is this desire to for parents to sort of protect their kids from the
right.
idea of that this bad thing happens. That is
Mhm.
not how you protect your kids.
That's
Ignorance is
not.
not how you protect your kids.
That's
In
right.
fact, having a conversation, having them read this book, reading this book with them so they
That's right.
understand how somebody can be coerced, what are some of the dangerous situations that someone can get into, what are some of the like unfair sort of shaming things that happen to kids in this situation, like what are some of the things around it, like educate them and yourself
That's
so that
right.
they have the tools. Trying to keep them ignorant is just a recipe for disaster. And that's
Yeah.
why I think that's where I think the most like well-intentioned book
Mhm.
banners where they get it wrong,
They get it
because
wrong.
keeping kids ignorant does not keep them safe. Talk about
That's right.
safety, make you feel safe. Ignorance does not
That's
keep
right.
anybody safe.
That's right. That's right. And I think the difference between reading a book and watching a show about something like that, it's a different type of slow time. You work slower through a novel. So
Sure.
you're able to process slower too. And I think things can stick with you in different ways. And so it's so important. And it's so important that we are, all of us folks that love books, that we do our part and fight and go to school board meetings and have our say, and also talk about it with people and check in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start really asking people about that, because I assume everybody knows about
Yeah.
this and everybody
Well, they don't. It's really like surprising because it's what we talk about a lot, right? Yeah.
yeah. And now that you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking everybody knows about that. And you're right.
We
It's
got to
not.
check in with some of our mom friends.
We have to check in with some of our mom friends and have the conversation. And yes. Well, I wanted to just thank you so much, Alex. I know we're at time for coming and being with us tonight and
It
talking
was an
about
absolute joy.
your
Chantel, you just have the most thoughtful and engaging conversations. It
thank
was an
you.
absolute pleasure. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you. I want to say that if you believe out there that words matter and healing emerges from the ashes, you need to get this book, not just one copy though, just not just one. I want you to get this for especially the young people in your lives. But on the backs of what Alex and I were saying, this is really a great read to read with um, the young people in your life. There's so much that conversations that are just going to come in that discussion. And what I know from my work and my day job and having conversations with kids, what kids desire most from the older people in their lives, their moms, their dads, and also older siblings, is time. They want time. And I think that it's so great when you can sit and read a book, read along with your children and have a conversation. So holiday seasons are coming up. I think that this looks very pretty under a tree or as in a gift. So please do that. And also check out Alex's debut novel, The Greek Keeper, and be sure to do that. You will not be disappointed. The writing is beautiful. The characters are all very singular and vibrant. It is a really, really good read. Thank you, Alex, for honoring the world with your craft and taking your craft seriously. And I know it was,
Thank you, Chantel.
I think, like 6 years, right? Thank you for between the first book and this book.
6 years, yeah.
6 years. I just want to say thank you so much for being diligent to the work that you are here to do, because you're definitely here to give us stories. And we all of our lives are made richer by stories. So thank you for being an awesome storyteller. Thank you for being with me tonight. Thank you all for being to me tonight. And you can find Fire Blooms and The Greek Keeper wherever you like to shop for books. And you can also learn more about Alex. I think we're leaving her information in the show notes below. And until next time, you guys, as always, I would love for you to support an indie bookstore because they are near and dear to my heart. Alex, you have a favorite indie bookstore, right? I'm going to get up there.
Yeah, you do. My
I
favorite
do.
is near me. It's called Commonplace
At
Reader, but any
any indie
bookshop
bookstore.
is going to
Yes,
do you right because they are just supporting the community and getting these important books into the
they
hands of
are.
kids.
They are. And also, call to action, have a conversation with your mom friends about BAM books.
Yes,
I think
and your
that's
dad, your mom and
and
dad
your
friends.
dad friends, your mom and dad friends about BAM books. Just have a conversation. Bring it up,
Yes,
okay, in
yes.
conversation. And as always, you guys, stay reading. Thanks. Bye.